All right, it's Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis filling in for Jeff Blair's Blue Jays. Orioles have the rubber game, 3-game set today down at Rogers Center. They dropped second game of that 3-game series against the O's yesterday, 7-3. Bullpen could not hold a 3-2 lead. Kevin, that makes a whole lot of sense because his bullpen all season long has not been very good. 29th in baseball in ERA. And they don't have any of the good relievers. I mean, they got Chad Green, and Yannis Cabrera has been pretty good. Was actually pretty good in yesterday's game as well. It's tough. Ryan Burr trying to cement himself as a major leaguer. He gives up a big home run to Jackson Holiday, and that's pretty much all she wrote, as they could not hold the lead for Bowden Francis, who was real good. 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, as well as he's trying to put himself into the mix for a rotation spot next season.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, he had better extension and finish on the split finger that was down a little bit better. The slider on the corners, was efficient. It wasn't down the middle. Sometimes it gets a little floppy. I mean, he's a big man. Keeping that on the tracks, keeping it in line, getting to the better finish is not always the easiest thing to repeat. So that looked a little bit better. The velocity was there. Larry Vanover, look, that dude standing behind the catcher was something else.
I have numbers on Larry Vanover. You want to know?
So that helped a little bit, right? It's that establishing that ball that's a little higher than high. Now you put it in the mind, you call it for a strike. Now a hitter thinks he has to protect that. He starts to expand, and then he starts giving a little bit away to both batters, right away to righties, away to lefties, and then you feel like you have to expand, but give Bowden credit. I mean, he pounded the zone. He was a little bit better efficient. He had 16.2 pitches per inning, which is a big deal for him. The less you show him, the better off he's going to be. So, I mean, there's options, I think, going into next year for that 5 spot, and I think he's one of them.
No question. Larry Vanover, 76% called strike accuracy yesterday. The Major League average is 88%. So
he'd be in the Hall of Fame next year.
Yeah, it's not a great outing for Larry Vanover. He actually favored the Blue Jays in that game. Not enough, though, to get the Blue Jays a victory. Yeah, so Bowden Francis started the season in the rotation because Kevin Gausman had a slow start as he was ramping up with the injury concerns in spring training, and it didn't go well for him in his first tour of duty as a starter. He's since added the splitter, right? Try and get lefties off him a little bit because he doesn't have that upper 90s fastball. He's got mid-90s stuff. I don't know if anybody thinks this guy's going to be like a top-of-the-rotation starter or anything.
Yeah, he didn't have to be. I mean, they already got 3 of those, right? You got Yariel Rodriguez coming back. That'll be your 4th guy. And now you got some options, I think, with Bowden thrown in there for your 5th spot. Me, personally, I think they need to go out and get a veteran guy who don't cost them a ton of money that, is predictable. Is Bowden predictable? Like going forward, right? Do you sort of know whenever it's his turn to throw, is the elevated fastball going to be competitive? Is the split finger, like you mentioned, is he going to get some called strikes and some swing and misses on that? Is the slider going to be on the corner, not down the middle, and have some flop to it? Like, is he predictable now? And, again, how many 5 guys in the big leagues are predictable? But, again, I think this is what you're going to do if you're trying to make the playoffs and make a decent run at this going into the next season. And there is some unknowns with the big 3, right? I mean, they have pitched a lot. They are going to be a year older. Yeah. The expectations are going to be the same as it's been since they've been a Blue Jay going into next season. Is you're going to have to get off to a great start, hold the other team down until that lineup has a big inning. So, look, it's more fun to watch a guy sort of evolve, learn a routine, not be sort of thrown around from a bullpen arm to a starter. Sounds like they're going to let him take the ball every 5 days, give him a chance to solidify his, role or his whatever archy in the rotation going into next season.
Yeah.
This is all about finding out what you got.
So the Blue Jays do have 5 starters in the major leagues right now, and Jake Bloss is going to start in Buffalo this weekend. I mean, the question is, like, do you go to a 6-man rotation? I'm more interested in seeing the Bowden Francises, the Jake Blosses, and to a lesser extent, Yariel Rodriguez than I am seeing like a couple extra starts for Kevin Gausman or Jose Barrios or Chris Bassett.
Here's what I'll say to you about that. I think they have earned the right to go to them, ask them what they want to do, and you work around it. I mean, it's those first 3 guys having the conversation, basically telling you what they want to do. I mean, I would think what the answer would be with Chris. I mean, he's a gamer. He's going to take the ball every 5 days, get out of my way, no matter what. The other 2, I don't know. I mean, Kevin's
he's a creature of habit, right? Like
he
likes to be on his
routine. They've been around. They're making money for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think, John is pretty good about the conversations and allowing the veteran guys, especially this time of the year when they're out of it the way they are. And, what you've been asking them to do lately. And, whenever they needed help and they didn't give them help. And, it is sort of, that's the way it is now, I think. And I'm sure that's what they'll do. And, Yariel Rodriguez is, who knows the way they're going to use him. You were complaining about the pitches and why didn't they let him go and quitting and all these kind of things. And
he threw 81 pitches.
Yeah. Why are we quitting? I mean, he never quit. And so, it's more about figuring out what a guy can do. I think they know what he can do, right? The inconsistency in the arm slot, just the experience of not being a big leaguer, learning your routine, does my breaking stuff work at this level, or do I need to refine it, throw more fastballs? I know they've stopped trying to cacify it and, have the spin rate on the elevated fastball. Now you just do what a guy does best, right? Grip it and throw it and have the natural cut movement take over. And whenever he does that, and hopefully the weather's right and it's not too hot outside, doesn't have to overcome that. So, I think they know what he is. He will be a part of that rotation going forward into next season, even because of what they obviously gave him. The money plays a big part in this, but he does have a ton of stuff. So, again, it's just another thing that they're going to have to try and figure out, right? Who's the fifth guy? What are you going to do with the first three guys? And I'm sure they got a plan. They always have a plan, right? Huh?
Maybe. Sort of. We didn't get to this on Blue Jays Talk. I forgot to mention this. There was retaliation for Vlad. Ryan Yarbrough throwing 75 into the side of Adley Rutschman in the eighth inning. Yeah, I know it was too. Obviously, that one wasn't intentional, but they did hit Adley Rutschman. Speaking of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who was plunked, it seemed pretty plainly intentionally in the back in Game 1. Made his first couple of errors at third base this season. Extended the hitting streak to 19. Got a chance to extend it to 20 tonight in the finale of this 3-game set. Nothing wrong with the offense all season long.
No.
The one that went right through him, ate him up. We haven't seen that too much this season. This is not something we expected to see a whole lot of this year. And just out of necessity, they moved him over to third base because, they're trying to get a little more offense than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Justin Turner at third base. I mean, how realistic is it next season this, again, becomes an option? Vladimir Guerrero Jr., even sparingly, like once a week, a couple of times a month. Like, how often do you think the Blue Jays want to do this in 2025?
Yeah, it better never happen unless the name is Pete Alonso or Anthony Santander or maybe a Christian Walker. It better never happen. I mean, just think about if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and you're having to play third so they can get against a lefty, Clement, Jimenez, Horowitz, and Kirk in the lineup all at the same time. I mean, look, we understand this time of the year where they're at in the standings and what they're trying to find out with these dudes, and that's why they're in the lineup, and that's why Vladdy's playing third. But if going forward, if we whatsoever want to take this team who is a top 10 payroll team in baseball serious, stop it. Like you want to, again, make a run at this thing, and for fans and people like us to take this front office serious, go out and get you 6 dudes who know how to play 145 games a season at a certain position. Don't be flip-flopping dudes who've won gold gloves around to third base and, look like he's never played a position before. I mean, that's not Vladdy's fault. It's just footwork and, fast twitch muscles and things he's just not used to doing with right-handed hitters up and then having to run on, make throws on the run and things like that. I mean, it just screams injuries. And I know if I were Vladdy, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, where I'm at in my career, what I'm trying to do, what money I'm trying to make, again, he is the nicest human on earth. If you've ever talked to Vladdy, he will do anything a baseball team asks him to do. But, man, anybody, I mean, if he's got some friends that are standing around him, they might want to raise their hand and go, you really want to do this? I mean, you see yourself the way you looked trying to field that ball, throw tough on the run, and you were falling like you had 6 legs. Like it's like
he might have been upright if he had 6 legs.
It's just like getting all those to land in the right spot, trying to throw it accurately at first. Yeah. Is just not a good look for a team that has a payroll this high. So, yeah, enough. That's my point.
There was a reason why they moved him off the position to begin with. And part of it was physically. They didn't want him playing that demanding a position defensively. Secondarily, frankly, I mean, all the defensive metrics were not kind to him at that position. Didn't have a ton of range. And he turned himself into a pretty good defender at first base.
The matchup game, right? It's the high payroll team trying to act like Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Well, which is why this is, again, like the conversations that we're trying to have and listening to the president talk yesterday. Hopefully they've learned their lesson about just this part of it. We'll all get in a room and try and figure out the best way going forward to, if we want to win the American League East or we want to make a serious run into the playoffs or even getting into the playoffs, get some dudes that know how to play every day and are predictable, right?
Well, to that point, I mean, we played some of the clips from Mark Shapiro's media availability yesterday. Of course, that was making the rounds around baseball media yesterday, including to MLB Network, where Mark DeRosa and John Heyman had their say on what's gone wrong with the Blue Jays and what they took from Mark Shapiro's media availability yesterday.
Where do they go from here, John?
Man, that's a tough spot. On paper, they do look like a solid team. It's pretty shocking. Everything has gone wrong except Vlad Guerrero's been incredible lately. Other than that, I mean, Bo Bichette hasn't had his typical year. They've had underperformance everywhere. I mean, we just talked about how Houston looked at Kikuchi not performing that well for them, and they figured, hey, this guy's got great stuff. He'll do better for us. It's bad. It's not good.
Yeah, and
I think
Zero,
it's a wake-up call.
Division, I mean,
yeah, and
like
I also think it's a wake-up call for some of these teams that identify talent. You can't go into seasons like with no starters at certain spots. I mean, they kind of tried to go into this season at third base with no set starter. That doesn't play. You can't turn IKF, Justin Turner. You got to get dudes in there to help you win, period. Oh, we got to get better defensively. Let's go get Kiermaier and Varsho. And I get what they're trying to do. I really do. And then what happens? Bo Bichette doesn't play well, and it exposes how you tried to, some nickel and dime attempt. Yeah. So they should have been better. There's something going on in that clubhouse. I don't know necessarily what it is. Like you said, a lot of people underperformed. Their home clubhouse is entirely too nice. I've never been to a nice day spot in my life. Lock the doors.
Does that affect the performance, you think?
He says it's a spa experience.
If I don't have to see my teammates until 6:45 on the line to get loose, I think that's a problem.
Okay.
I do. But that's not for me. I don't run the Toronto Blue Jays.
All right. There's some interesting stuff there, Kevin. Let's take it in reverse order because I think that the ending part there is the most interesting when you're talking about players being comfortable. I mean, the Reynolds have been great for the fans, and I'm sure they're great for the players. Are they too good?
I couldn't disagree more. I mean, he had me up until the day spa thing. Come on, man. Like it's look, just if I go 3 for 4 and go into an air conditioned place away from people, I like that. Like it's okay for me to not be around somebody. That has nothing to do with performance. I think he's talking about when you're going through hard times, you want to come together as a unit. And when the place is bigger and it's nice and you got some places to hide, that might be what he's talking about. These are, most of these guys, they had the oldest lineup in baseball coming into in the American League East coming into the season. It's not like these dudes haven't been around, right? It's not like they haven't struggled before. It's just the deficiency of talent spread out through a lineup that John Snyder every day could pencil 1 through 9 in his order is just consistently not there. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's funny listening to him say it's a day spa, and he has been around forever, and he has been in some nice places on some really good teams. But that part of it, that's a little silly. But the first part that he said.
Oh, that's undeniable, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like it is. Look, it's very hard, again, to find 3 or 4 of the same kind of guy that are all clicking at the same time that can do sort of the same kind of thing against a lefty and a righty. Good luck. Like, this is the point, right, is, again, I get back to that. You were a top 10 payroll trying to act like a bottom 5 payroll by the way you are constructing your payroll or your 26-man roster. And trying to do that in the American League East is very, very hard to do, right? Predictability costs money. Like, and again, I think that's it too. He mentioned the talent and trying to figure out quicker if this guy talent-wise can be a part of your future. That is something that I think the Blue Jays have to sort of be better at, right? They need a left fielder. They need a third baseman. They need maybe a second baseman if you don't believe in Horwitz, which I kind of do, right? I mean, you can't probably solidify all those spots, but, you know, Loperfito's got about, 40 or 50 more at-bats here? I think you should be able in maybe a 65, 70 at-bat range to know sort of what he brings. Can he hit a heater? Can he lay off a strike-to-ball breaking ball, right, as Davis Schneider ran its course? Like, there's some things right here that, you know, you can't, again, move your Gold Glove first baseman to third baseman going into next season trying to match up so you get Clements, Jimenez's, which, again, Bo Bichette will be back and the Jimenez thing won't happen, but you get the point. Like, it's predictability and dudes that when you write their name in a lineup, you know what you're going to get. I talk about this all the time with the rotation and guys out of the pen, is when John hands the ball to them, they're predictable. Like you started the show with how bad the bullpen is.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what them dudes are going to give you on an every outing basis.
Yeah.
That's what I think D-Rose talking about.
But there's normal variance, right? Especially in a bullpen, relievers year over year change. But when you go into a season, and D-Rose right to point out that they didn't have an established starter at third base. Like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was signed to the 2-year free agent deal to be the opening day third baseman, but he wasn't expected to hit as well as he did and deserved the playing time that he got at third base, but not a prototypical corner infielder that's going to give you 20 home runs, obviously. Second base, I mean, it's into a place where it's Spencer Horwitz's job. He's taken the most plate appearances of any of the second base. It was like Cavan Biggio and Davis Schneider, and take your pick, and hopefully somebody emerges. Going back to the beginning of the season, that was it. There was a lot of hoping, right? There was a lot of hope that, hey, Justin Turner can occasionally play third base. And when he's playing third base, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa can play second base, and somebody will emerge as somebody having a good season and deserve the playing time.
Okay. For even more reason to why you would have to ask yourself, why is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. playing third base? If you think Horwitz can be your everyday second baseman next year, find out.
Yeah.
Run him out there every single day at second base. You know who your first baseman is? Vladdy.
Yeah.
He ain't a third baseman, so you're trying to sprinkle in dudes in the middle of the infield to try and find out what you got next year. Right now, it looks like you found out the right side of your infield. Why mess around with that? That part of it I just don't understand. I will never get. It's a bad look. And hopefully going forward, they fix this. And, you know, the baseball world, just by listening to those two speak about the Blue Jays, don't have a ton of confidence in the front office for the Blue Jays. And that's the first time for real that we've heard the outside world, other than, you know, the box here that's in Toronto, the way we talk about the front office and the things that we see on an everyday basis. There's some doubt there. So there is some, I would think, if you're in the front office and you have some say-so, there's some things to prove.
Yeah, I mean, Mark DeRosa, I mean, he did the funny thing talking about the day spa, but before that, he said there's something wrong with that clubhouse, right? And he said he didn't know what it was.
I know what it is.
Well, what is it?
It's big boys underperforming, and when you don't go out and try and help the two dudes that you call the core, this is the way it looks. I've been in clubhouses with really good players on it, and when those good players are not doing what we expected the good players to be doing, the clubhouse is not any good, because you want to know why? We're losing. This is what losing looks like in a clubhouse. He knows. He's been in losing clubhouses before. It's no secret, right? So, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's a checklist. There's always a checklist, especially in 2024. I mean, I would think it would start with the shortstop. You got to figure out how to mentally, physically get that dude right.
Is it important for him to come back and show that he's healthy and good before the end of the season?
Not for me. Not for me. I mean, I don't care if he plays again this year. I don't care. I want him to be 1,000% going in to next season. Because if he's not healthy, it's not like you can go out and find and trade what you got for a shortstop that can do what Bo can do, right? No. I mean, if you're thinking about it, that's your two-hole hitter, right? I mean, if you just think about your starters next year going into that. Like, you could have Kirk as your catcher, Springer as your right fielder, and Varsho as your center fielder, and then Bo and Vladdy as your shortstop and your first baseman. 3 of the 5, there's some unknowns offensively, right?
Yeah.
So now that even puts more pressure on those two dudes in the front office to go out and help those two guys to help get off to a good start. They're not real good about playing catch-up. So you want to hit the ground running here, and the only way you're going to do that is to bring in talent that's predictable. And talent and predictability costs money. So fingers crossed if you're a Blue Jays fan and you're working on this show,
Well,
that they do that.
I mean, predictability, yeah, it's tough to find. And consistency.
Costs money. It costs
Consistency.
more money to bring them to Canada. I mean, that's just life. It's the way it is. So hopefully, I'm not thinking they're expecting or fans are expecting them to go out and get 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
But at least one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been yelling and screaming for 2 years. Where's the cleanup hitter? It can't be Dalton Varsho. It can't be Alejandro Kirk. It can't be
39-year-old
Horowitz.
Justin Turner.
It can't be Spencer Horowitz. No offense to those 3 guys, but it just can't be that starting the season next year. So
Could be Anthony Santander. The way he's swinging the bat right now.
That's the way it's supposed to look, right? That's the way, right? It's not a coinky dink that he's hitting home runs with 2 strikes, right? It's like you sell out to an approach all the time. No matter what, I'm selling out to this thing, right? He sits spin. You just look with 2 strikes how he fouls the fastball. He's always late on the fastball because he's sitting spin. And then he hit that breaking ball that was way up because he's sitting on it. Everybody said, well, how's he hitting it? Because he's looking for it, right? Yeah. I'm playing defense on something that looks straight. But if I see it spinning, because that's an easy thing to get in the air to the pull side, and he knows it. So it's like the home run he hit right-handed off the lefty off the changeup. It's like he's sitting soft. He's sitting spin with 2 strikes. That's what veteran guys do who are predictable, who've been around forever, who had success, and sort of don't let hitting coaches dictate approaches and even have to ask a hitting coach how you go about your at-bats, right? That's sort of something I think, too, where the organization's at for the Blue Jays, at least for me. They're kind of past that, right? I mean, they're kind of past throwing all this off on the coaches. And, coaches are just sort of there sometimes now with where they're at trying to win, of walking them off the plank. Like you go 0 for 10, you're feeling bad. I don't know. Go give a guy a shot of tequila because you've done it before. Like, you don't need me. I'm the soft toss. Y'all be in the cage. We'll go through this together. But we shouldn't have to tinker and turn this thing upside down to figure you out. You should have enough talent and been there and done it enough to know these kind of things. So I just think, again, this is why I think, look, it's not my money, and hopefully ownership wants to do this still. But I just don't think it's a hard fix. It's just being smart with the money that you do have. I think that's where they're sort of at, and hopefully they do that, and everything falls in line.
There's at least 3 bats, 3 spots in the order you got to fill in for next season, and that's left field, that's third base, and it's a DH bat. But somebody that can play, an extra bat that is superfluous, I guess, and somebody can DH. And a secondary catcher
every day. Like you need 6 dudes who go to post.
Yeah.
Every day, right?
Well, and a catcher as well. Now, what caliber of catcher do you need? Like Alejandro Kirk over his last 8 games is looking like the old guy that we saw a couple of years ago that was an all-star. He's 13 for his last 29. He's hitting the ball hard. He's going line to line. He's hitting line drives. He hit for power the other day, hit a home run to left field. I mean, his first since mid-June. He's not playing a ton of games, right? Like, so the season totals are very, very depressed because Danny Jansen, when he got off his own injured list stint, was the established number 1 starter for this Blue Jays team. Is there time for Alejandro Kirk to show to this front office that he's worthy of being the guy that gets the majority of starts behind the plate in 2025?
Can I wait to see what they do in the offseason? Because if they bring in some bats,
but it doesn't his performance. Okay, so you're saying if there's enough offense around him, then it doesn't matter.
Like
if you get a base level,
you could bring in a James McCann who's been around forever. It's not going to cost you a ton of money.
You can play with a broken nose.
Who knows how to catch, right? Who can spread out, get an older pitcher through a tough spot in a game, because he's been there and done it before. He's obviously done it in the American League East. Like, there's guys that you could do that with. This is what I said, right? You ask guys to carry your team that, quite frankly, are not probably capable of doing that. And why should you ask them? I think that's the point. So, I'm sort of in that camp that I don't think it really matters. I think it's there, right? They can find a guy that can back up. He plays 3 out of the 4 days. Yeah. Maybe DH is one of those days next year. Right, and then you get another guy that can play 3 of those days behind the plate, and but then the caveat to that is you got a cleanup hitter. Maybe you bring in another left-handed like a Brandon Lau or somebody like that. I'm not saying that's who they bring in, but somebody who can, you got a righty thumper, you got a lefty who can do it. Like, then that takes pressure off of everybody. And then you see the best out of Bo. You see the best out of Vladdy. George Springer's not asked to carry the load a year older offensively. Just go up there, be free and easy, and be yourself. Like, it's like you can do a couple of things to sort of take care of the things that are your elements now. Like, it's, you can get that road pulling in the right direction. And again, if they have the money to do it, hopefully that's what they do. They recognize the right kind of talent.
Yeah.
They recognize what their issues are, because the issue has been the same for the last couple of years. It just all of a sudden didn't pop up. Yeah. It's been that way for the last couple of years, and I'm sure that's what will happen. And they got some more heavy lifting to do.
27th in baseball in home runs is no way to live in the American League.
Well, that's called last place.
Yeah, that's exactly where the Blue Jays reside.
Yeah.
By the way, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. back in the lineup. He's back at first base, so not playing third today.
Was a right-hander throw, and that's
yeah.
It's the matchup thing. And to ask a manager to always get this right and put the right matchup out there, it's like giving the ball to the 6th and 7th inning guy and then trying to do the same thing with the 8th and 9th inning guy. Every once in a while, there's got to be no-brainers to where, okay, I can do it in the 6th and 7th inning. But how dare we try and, make the playoffs or win a playoff series by me trying to match up the 8th and 9th inning with the way they've tried to do it the last 2 seasons? It's
not ideal.
No, it's hard.
All right.
And then we start talking about how bad we think the manager is, and it's unfair.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have a lot to work with, especially in the bullpen. A couple of guys just trying to prove that they're major leaguers right now, and yesterday didn't go so well. When we come back, though, we'll talk to Buck Showalter, 4-time Major League Manager of the Year, currently an MLB Network analyst, as Blair and Barker continues. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Baseball news today is Pedro Grifol handed his walking papers, fired as manager of the Chicago White Sox, which is, hey, listen, everybody wants to be a major league manager. Probably shine gets worn off a little bit when you're on pace to beat the 1962 New York Mets for most losses in a season. Also firing the bench coach, Charlie Montoyo, third base coach, Eddie Rodriguez, and assistant hitting coach, Mike Tozar, were the White Sox. Grady Sizemore, no major league experience as a manager, named the interim manager in Chicago for the White Sox. All right, let's talk to a man who knows a thing or two about managing a Major League Baseball team.
Does.
4 times he was the best at it. 4-time Major League Manager of the Year, MLB Network analyst, Buck Showalter, kind enough to join us on the show. How's it going, Buck?
Ben, how are you and Kevin today? How's everything up there?
Doing very well. Let's talk about this Blue Jays team first for a bit, Buck. Obviously, they had high expectations going into the season. They were a playoff team with 89 wins a season ago, and it's all gone downhill, and it was a sell-off time, obviously. In July, we still got a couple of months of baseball to go, and there's some veterans on this team. What would it be like to manage a team in this scenario that's so disappointed all season long?
Well, I'm not there, and I'm not going to start weighing in on things I don't know. But I'll tell you this: the trading deadline is a tough time in the locker room, because that's why you're very careful as a manager talking about, trades and coveting players and this and that, because it's going to affect somebody in that locker room. Your job is to manage and create an atmosphere for those 26 guys in there. So, regardless of what the front office is doing or what the philosophy is, obviously, if you're asked, you weigh in on it. But you got to stay focused on those 26. And, I've been on both sides of it, and both of them are uncomfortable, because that if there's a trade made, someone's coming in to take somebody's place. So it's tough. There's part of me that commends the Blue Jays for staying the course. It really, and saying, okay, it's one of those years, and things didn't mesh, and certain things we thought were going to happen haven't happened. Obviously you try to finish strong. There's a lot of young players there trying to make a lasting impression that they don't need to have that position filled, so to speak. But, collectively it's been a tough year for them. I like a lot of things about the Blue Jays, who still do, but sooner or later they'll find their way. I like their pitchers. I think their starting pitching, the bullpen has some good pieces, but it's just so many things that have to go well for a season to click, especially in that division.
Buck, how important is it in American League East? You've been around the American League East a lot, to have a dude. Like, Bo and Vladdy, they've tried to sort of force into being the dudes, and, sometimes that's not the easiest thing to force on young superstars. Is that part of it? That's sort of a separate kind of thing. You need that veteran guy who's been around and done it a long time. How hard is that to do, and not if you don't have that guy trying to do what the Blue Jays are trying to do on an everyday basis in their lineup?
Oh, it's a challenge. It's tough to equivocate analytically, how to, as far as makeup and personality and clubhouse, those are things that just, there's a feel you have to have. And some guys aren't quite ready for it. Some are. Some can do it at a younger age, but it's still about, it's like I told Adam Jones in Baltimore when I first got there. I said, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you say. It doesn't matter what you say or do. Sooner or later, you got to play the game in a certain way, in the right way. You got to know who you are as a team. And, every situation I've been in call for a little different approach, whether it be Baltimore or New York or Arizona. You have to step back and say, what does this team and organization need a manager to bring? And that's the challenge, is seeing if someone's ready for that type of responsibility. Guys don't really want that responsibility as much as they used to because of the scrutiny that comes with it, especially in some of the bigger markets.
Yeah. Is there now the Blue Jays have a bunch of young guys who are trying to find out, Vladdy was playing third yesterday just because they're trying to get a young guy at second, a young guy at shortstop. Mm-hmm. They want to fill in sort of who's DHing. They just want to see what they got going into the offseason. If you're the manager and you're looking and you're going through this, is there a stat? Is there something that you look at from young guys that in a small period of time that you can tell one way or the other if that kid can play and be a part of what you're trying to do going into next season?
Well, I'm sure John's looking at that. I mean, I'm impressed with John. I think he does a good job there, and I'm always biased towards coaches and managers, mm-hmm. But when you have the ability to evaluate that and is really a challenge. I think the first thing you guys may roll your eyes at this. One thing I look at with minor league players is games played. Yeah, that's one thing. To me, it's like a skill. You teach someone has the 5 tools we've all heard about, but the 6th tool is the ability to post up. Games played, and sometimes in minor leagues with all these off days they've got and the load management, they get to the big leagues. I know I had a player, without naming names, got upset because he said, we didn't really get prepared for what's going on in the big leagues. We were off on Mondays. We had another load management day, and all of a sudden we get up here and we're expected to play every day. So I look at that and I challenge minor league development people to teach them that skill too, because it's like Adam Jones and Nick Markakis said, my 90% is better than the guys replacing me 100%. Kevin, the last time you're 100% is the day you get out of the car in spring training. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. The first day. So it's just different degrees, and that's why football coaches and basketball coaches just can't comprehend what goes on in baseball, in a sport you play every day. So the ability to post up and play is something that I look at real hard.
Yeah, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the entire tenure of his major league career has really posted up. 156 games last year, 2022, 160, 161 in 2021. It's been one of the underrated parts of his game.
His dad did, and Kevin, his dad did the same thing. Yeah. So where do you get that? It's not that hard to figure out if you just kind of look around and peripherally to get a way to project it.
Yeah. We heard from the president of the Blue Jays yesterday, Buck. We heard from Mark Shapiro. He has 1 more year on his deal. The GM, Ross Atkins, has 2 more years on his deal. I don't know. Does the manager think about that at all? Like, have you ever been in similar circumstances where, like, there's some contractual uncertainty up above you at the front office level?
Yeah, that happens. It's part of it. Everything has an equation. You just got to stay focused on what your job is. It's serving the needs of those 26 players, and it may be trainers or traveling secretaries or strength and fitness coaches or even your coaches. Your job, and that's why I would get there early, because I need a couple hours by myself to prepare at my pace and do some things. Because once that door opens and they start coming in, you're on. And there's a lot of things you have to wear as a manager that what's the old expression? Be careful about telling truths that hurt innocent people. Some things you just wear. That's part of the job description. But you just, regardless of what's going on around you, I found through the years, I never was working on my next job. Do that job. Focus on what you need to bring that day, and it's a lot easier. I find it great to evaluate guys when you're struggling, whether it be coaches, managers, players. Anybody can put on a good face when everything's hunky-dory, but what are they going to do when there's some challenges along the way? Because adversity's around every corner in the big leagues.
Yeah. The Blue Jays just got through playing the Yankees, and, there was a little bit of uproar with Juan Soto when, John is walking Judge and just not basically letting Judge beat him. Like, you going to beat us if Austin Wells is hitting cleanup? Good luck to you. Like, it ain't going to be Judge that's doing it. How do you feel about that if you are the manager of the Yankees? Because I would think going forward, other teams that are playing the Yankees, the Orioles, any team that's trying to beat the Yankees is thinking the same thing that John was thinking and may go about it in that way. If you're Aaron Boone, how would you handle that?
Well, first of all, your job as a manager is to give your team the best chance to win the game. And letting him swing freely is not a real good proposition. And, there's a lot of talk around New York about the batting order and Soto and this and that, whatever. Yeah, I personally, he manages his team, I manage my team. John's going to do what's best for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Aaron's going to do what's, sometimes I wish we'd meet at home plate and say, listen, anything we do, Dave, not trying to rub your face in it. We're not trying to do this and do that. We're just trying to win a game and be prepared for the next game and the next game and the next game. So, let them manage their team and you manage yours. And every once in a while things get a little sideways. So, arguments with umpires with replay and everything isn't as much in play as it used to be.
Imagine it, White Sox relieving Pedro Grifol today of his duties. I mean, I imagine there's a little relief there. Again, everybody wants to be a major league manager. Can you imagine, Buck?
I was thinking when you said the word relief, I said, I wonder if there's some of that in there. That's tough. Good baseball man, a really good baseball man. And those things snowball, and there's a lot of things to blame for it, so to speak, and everybody will play the blame game. And but keep in mind, there's always more than just one thing. It's the GOAT hero thing. After a game, they want to know who the hero is if you won and who the GOAT was if you lost. And there's some things. There's some heroes in wins and losses and GOATs, and you try to keep that in mind. So I don't think he's relieved. It's something you work your whole life for to get an opportunity. I know he's disappointed and frustrated, and at no point was he pointing fingers and trying to distance himself from it. And that'll play well for him as his career goes forward. And he will work again. He's a good baseball man.
So Grady Sizemore gets his first kick of the can. It's obviously on an interim basis. He was part of the coaching staff, but not one of the coaches, obviously, that was let go. This season's his first season on a major league coaching staff, and he gets to slide over to the big job. Is there like a preferred way that you should go through, I don't know, the minor league system? Is there a preferred way to arrive at the job of major league manager? Or if you're a player of the stature of Grady Sizemore, is that more than enough experience to get a shot as a major league manager?
Well, I talk about managers when they ask me about someone, I look at their path. You look at Voit in Cleveland, he had a good path, but they come in different forms. If you didn't have an illustrious career as a player, what is your path? Is it at every level stop? Is it winter ball? Is it instructional league? Is it things to ply your trade and get better at it? And they come in all shapes and sizes. You can't just say, okay, everybody that's a good manager is going to follow this path. But I will tell you the people skills involved, and there's some things that have changed managing today's game. There's also some things that stay the same that you got to be true to in order to be successful. Grady's always had a great way about him. I can't say I know him that well, but I always loved the way he played the game, and there was a pureness in the way he went about his business, and there was nothing phony about him. That usually plays well in the locker room because you're around each other so much, you'll sniff out a phony in a heartbeat in a big league locker room because you're with each other all the time, Kevin, as you know. So very quickly, something that's not real gets exposed.
Buck, what's the biggest adjustment as a manager from your first year to your last year that you had to make that wasn't the easiest of adjustments?
No, you're always making adjustments to the players. I'm not asking them to adjust to me. You find out what they need, and the game is not. Everyone tries to make it like it's some. We've got a lot more information and bright people in the game that try to help along the way, and I think it's one of the manager's jobs to create an atmosphere for everybody to bring what they bring. It may be somebody analytically or sabermetrically or a coach or somebody from upstairs. You have to be approachable, and you have to create an environment where everybody feels like they're pulling on the rope. And I think that's the challenge, is making sure that everybody that's wearing your colors, so to speak, are all pulling on the same rope, and we're all going to be successful. And you got to take the egos out of it. And one thing I did in all the situations I went in, if you'll ever notice, I didn't get rid of people if I could, because we just wanted to change the environment and change the narrative. And you might find out that some people are pretty good, just haven't quite created the situation for them to be good. And it's not their fault; it's your fault.
We'll see how Grady Sizemore does on the south side there. Buck, appreciate the time
Tremendous.
very much. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Buck. It's awesome.
All right, guys, y'all take care. Hang in there; it'll get better. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Buck. Buck Showalter, 4-time Major League Manager of the Year, MLB Network analyst. You know what Grady Sizemore was doing last year? Kevin?
I know, but tell me.
Yeah, you do, because I told you. The only job he could find in baseball was working as an intern with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was making $15 an hour, which is double minimum wage. But yeah, this is Grady Sizemore in his era. Like, you take the injuries out of it, this guy was like an all-time player. Left-handed power bat, playing defense.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the end goal here is for the White Sox. Interim, I mean, he's got like, a month and a half. What's he trying to prove? I mean, is they already sort of locked him in without telling people going forward that he's the guy? Like, I understand the former player relationship with the younger kids. Like, I mean, that's basically what it's going to be after they empty house in the offseason and trade the people they're supposed to be trading. But I just, it's a tough spot, right? I mean, I'm sure he knows a bunch about the game. He'll make the moves he's supposed to be making. I mean, he'll try and make it as fun as possible. I'm sure that he's been told it's not about wins. It's about, looking and playing the part and acting like a big league club. So I just don't know. I don't know how hard that would be. I don't know individually on the human side.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's going to take the job if they come a-calling.
Yeah.
But I just don't know, right, how he would feel. Obviously, he's going to make more than $15 an hour.
Yeah.
But, you sort of get the point. It's just the human side of it. It can't be the easiest thing to go through. But hopefully it works out for him. I'm sure that human side relating to the younger player is sort of what I think they're going for. And I'm assuming he's cheap, which is a big deal too, right? So
I guess.
Yeah. And then, once they get good again, they'll probably go the way they're supposed to go, bring in a veteran guy who's laying it down and, when they're in win mode. So
being a major league manager in 2024 is, I mean, it's confusing as to where the responsibility lies.
Just
times.
Look at John in the playoffs.
Well,
look what he's went through. Like, who you blaming?
Well, and this is such a different sport than any of the other North American pro sports, in that you're with these people every day for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And it's changed so much in the way information is transmitted from the front office to the manager who's pushing the button.
Hard to have your own opinion anymore, right? I think that's the hardest part. Even Buck just mentioned that, right?
Yeah. I mean, back to your playing days, though, if you could have a choice of a great tactician as your manager, but like not the greatest people skills, or the guy who was the great relationship guy, but boy, there was a couple of moves throughout the game that you didn't think were maybe to your liking. Like, which would you prefer? Like, what is the more valuable trait, the relationship person or the strategig person?
Honest. That's all you want as a manager. Again, a good manager is one it's like a good umpire. A good manager is one you never see. I mean, you're basically married to your coaches, like you are. Like the pitchers are married to Pete Walker. The hitters, who knows who they're married to, but it's one of them. I mean, at least it gets monthly, it changes, but it's one of them, right? So you're trying to find the one that speaks the language that you want to be spoken to. So, yeah, again, my feeling about a manager is way different than a lot of people's. Like I think it's. again, they make their living from the 6th inning on, going to the right guy in the 6th and 7th inning, and most good managers have a 9th and 8th inning guy.
Yeah.
Like they have their no-brainer, get it to the 8th inning, I got the guy. Get it to the 9th inning, I for sure got the guy. You know, it's most good teams have that. When you don't have that, and then you're overthinking it, and you're trying to match up, and there's pockets, and you got a lot of different voices thinking a lot of different things, and that's when it ends up looking the way it's looked the last couple of years. So, yeah, I'm sure it can't be the easiest thing, but, you know, there's only a handful of them. And if a team comes to calling, you take the opportunity and you try to run with it, do the best you can. But I like the relationship part of it. Yeah. Honesty.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Dusty Baker was honest with me. Yeah. He sent me down. He said, you'll be back. I was back in like 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, and John Schneider seems pretty adept at that part.
He is very honest. I mean, you can say a lot of things about John. The honesty part, I think, for the most part, the people that I've talked to, he is up front with his players, and he's not afraid to mix it up. But you got to give him credit for that.
Well, I mean, we talk about the young players being evaluated in these final couple of months of the season as to whether they fit into the plans in 2025. How much of that is on John as well? I mean, it's difficult. Like, it's not obviously about winning games right now, right? Yeah. Like, what's John Schneider supposed to do when your starter does a good job going 5 and you gotta fill 4 innings with this bullpen yesterday? So, like, I don't put any of that on him. Like, how do you evaluate if you are evaluating a manager in the final couple of months?
Yeah, and it's the human side too. The 30-year-old Burr who's trying to make a team and press. I like that. Like, I've been there before. You know, you're getting up in age. You got an opportunity. There's a window here. Yeah. You know, you could be a 6th inning pocket guy. Like, those are still a thing, and it's going to be a thing going forward.
We need a better term than pocket guy.
Oh, well, that's what they are. Like, they're a 2 righties and a lefty, and the lefty don't match up to the slider the way we want it to match up. That's why we're throwing you out there in this pocket. And it's up to the manager and the pitching coach to put that guy in the right pocket. That's just the way it is. They just need to figure out the 9th and 8th inning guy. Those are the 2 no-brainers, right? Like, I'm handing it to him no matter where they're at in the order. I'm handing it to him for sure because I'm paying him a bunch of money to get anybody out that's standing up there. So, yeah, I think it going forward would be very intriguing just to see how they handle relationships and the selling point and just talent. It would be nice to grade John on he's got tons of talent. Yeah. Now I can grade him. Like, you know, he's got a 9th inning guy. He's got an 8th inning guy. He's got a legit 7th inning guy. He's got a cleanup hitter. He's got a healthy Bo Bichette. Like,
how often has he had any of those things?
He's got some balance in his order with a second baseman who's left-handed, and maybe one of the outfielders, you know, in a rotation is left-handed with some thump to the pull side. Like, now I can grade the dude. Mm-hmm. Can you grade him up? I mean, I know people like to yell and scream about the playoffs, and that's fair. You can do that. They lost. Everything is fair game. But, man, just the talent he's tried to roll out there on an everyday basis is hard. So that's what I think, hopefully, going forward, you're a Jays fan. Tune into that. Hopefully they solidify it. And then the grading starts with the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, depends on what happens with Jordan Romano here with the injury, which seems pretty significant. Obviously, he's on the 60-day IL. But Chad Green, with the way he's performed in the 9th inning, his career numbers, I think he's perfect. I think he's 9 for 9 in saves opportunities this season. You're not comfortable with Chad Green as your closer next season?
I'd much rather have him in the 8th.
Sure, yeah. Push everybody back. Go ahead and get yourself.
Costs money, though.
Next, Mariano Rivera. Yeah, and if you're spending money, obviously you got to spend it on the bullpen.
Jeff Hoffman would look nice. He's available. It's not going to cost you a ton of money.
Yeah.
There you go.
In these parts, remember him as a minor leaguer.
Not this one. They don't remember. This dude's legit.
Yeah. He was a starter when he was the Blue Jays minor leaguer. All right, when we come back, it's the rubber match. Blue Jays and Orioles down at Rogers Center. We'll talk to Ben McDonald, former Major League pitcher, Orioles analyst on Masson. As Blair and Barker continue, Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Series victory on the line tonight down at Rogers Center. Blue Jays and Orioles. Battle of the Titans, the American League East. Let's talk to Ben McDonald, former Major League pitcher, Orioles analyst on Masson. Kind enough to join us on the line right now. How's it going, Ben?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. The Blue Jays have one Anthony Santander. Like that guy just put on a clinic yesterday. A couple of home runs, robbed the extra bases in right field from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. How hard do you think the Orioles are going to try to re-sign him?
There was a lot of talks last year, and again this offseason about potentially trading him because obviously he's a free agent at the end of the year. But obviously he's having his career best year, set a career high last night, 34th home run of the year, and I tell you what, he has been, you go back to June the 1st, guys, nobody in baseball has more homers than him since June the 1st. I think he's got 25 home runs he's hit since June the 1st. He's driven in right at 50 runs, too. So, look, he's been a huge part of this. He always has been, but it's a different kind of year for him. He's healthy again, and I feel like he's moving defensively. You saw the play he made on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. last night. Like, that's as good a play as you're going to see with the game on the line at that moment, and I think the Orioles have kind of pivoted a little bit. They asked Anthony Santander had any talks with the Orioles. They asked him just that a while ago, and he said, no talks as of yet. But with the year that he's having, I feel like the Orioles are going to try to get to him before he hits the free agent market and see if they can sign him or not. So we'll wait and see. But, look, man, I tell you what, I know there's a lot of outfielders in this Oriole organization, a lot of young players, but for a guy that's having a year that he's having at 29 years old, it just feels like the Orioles desperately need to go, give him an extension and have him back around for at least the next 3 or 4 years.
Ben, why has Jackson Holliday been so good?
Look, he made some adjustments. Obviously, he was overmatched the first time up. He only got 2 base hits, I think, in whatever it was, 38 tries. He struck out a lot. He was just kind of out over his skis a little bit. And, look, there's a lot of pressure on number one prospect in baseball. You guys know that. And at 20 years old, it just got to spinning really fast for him. The key for a young guy when he comes up to get a base hit pretty quickly, and kind of take a little pressure off of him. That didn't happen for Jackson. Like, it was a really rough start for him. They obviously sent him down, and they gave him a few things to work on. If you look, we got these new metrics now where you go look at swing length and all that. They told him his swing was a little bit too long. He got overmatched by some fastballs the first time. So he went down, he shortened his swing a good bit. He lowered his leg kick a little bit, and he flattened his swing a little bit, too, because it was a big bottom to top side swing. And he came up right away to hit that grand slam in Camden Yards. He landed out on Utah Street in his very first game back. And, of course, that gave him a ton of confidence, man, to kind of get going. And it's kind of carried over. He looks like a different dude, and that's not uncommon. We've talked about this a lot. The jump from AAA to the big league level is probably the biggest jump it's ever been in the history of baseball. And that's for a lot of different reasons. One, there's so many pitchers that got hurt at the big league level. If you can pitch at all at AAA, you're in the big leagues right now, which means, the AAA rosters are full of really AA hitters. And so the average AAA hitter's hitting 259 right now, whereas the average big league hitter's hitting 242. And so, sometimes the numbers can get skewed a little bit, but he's a lot more confident now. I think his approach and staying on the ball a little bit more, trying to drive the ball to left center field has allowed him to hit the fastball that way, but be on time for some breaking balls that he's getting now. That's really what he's hitting on the fence. It was a fastball last night, but 3 of his 4 home runs have come on the breaking ball, and so I think that's allowed him. He got off to a fast start, and that's carried over. And the one good thing about Jackson, even through his struggles the first time up, he played the hell out of defense, guys, and so it didn't affect him on both sides of the ball. And so he's fit right into second base. He's been a big part of this success the Orioles have had here recently, and so good for him. And we forget he's only 20 years old, and when you run Mayo out there at third, he's 22, Henderson's 23, and Holliday's 20, man, it's a young infield. And listen, honestly, that concerns me going into the playoffs because there's not many teams that are that young in the infield that have success in the playoffs.
Yeah, Kobe Mayo still looking for his first major league hit. He's 0 for 13 with 8 punch-outs, a couple of walks, though, as well. And, yeah, maybe the offense is affecting his defense as well at third base. Hey, Grayson Rodriguez was supposed to start in this series, and then he has, I think, an oblique issue, which has landed him on the IL, of course. Orioles added a couple of pitchers in the rotation, a couple of pitchers in the bullpen at the deadline as well. Is there enough pitching on this Orioles team right now to win the World Series?
Great question. The Orioles have been one of the healthiest teams in baseball the last 2 or 3 years until this year. Now we got 4 starting pitchers out. We got 3 relievers out right now. We got a third baseman and a second baseman out. And so the injuries have really caught up to the Orioles. Obviously, when you can run Corbin Burns out there, that is big. And going to pick up Eflin, who was, arguably the best pickup in the trade deadline for a starting pitcher. He's really solid, too. But now what do you do for a 3 guy? And that's the question. So Dean Kramer goes tonight. Can he elevate his game? Can Trevor Rogers, who the Orioles picked up from the Marlins, can he elevate his game, and get to that 3 spot? We're hoping Grayson Rodriguez can come back. We don't know. He had a similar issue to this about 3 years ago in the minors. It's actually a lat-type injury for him, and he was out 3 months. And obviously, if he's out 3 months, he misses the rest of the season, and that's going to be a big blow for the Orioles because it felt like lining up. When you can line up Burns, Grayson, Rodriguez, and Eflin, you got a real shot, right? And now that's changed. And so it's going to take some elevation from somebody else in this rotation, or maybe we get lucky because we're hearing it's just a very mild strain, and maybe Grayson misses a couple of weeks and he comes back and gets right to the playoffs, assuming the Orioles get there, But the Yankees are playing well, and obviously the Red Sox are really coming right now.
Ben, tell me who Brandon Hyde has the most comfortability with in the 8th and 9th inning. You got the lead in the playoff game. Who's he giving the ball to in the 8th and 9th inning?
Well, I mean, look, this happened early in the year, not early in the year, but it happened about a month into the season where Craig Kimbrell had some struggles, and Brandon Hyde put him in some lower leverage type situations if there is such a thing at the big league level. And he made 4 or 5 appearances, and he got right again. And look, he went on this crazy run. I mean, he gave up 1 earned run over 19 appearances. He was outstanding, and then he faltered again. And so right now it's feeling like it's Sir Anthony Dominguez at the very back. Cano can close as well. Cionel Perez has a couple. So it's kind of closer by committee right now, and I think he's doing it based upon the matchups and who he's going to face in the 9th inning, And so there's options down there. That's another thing. Our bullpen, which has really been the backbone of our team the last couple of years, our bullpen's ranked 18th best in baseball. I know it was really good last night. They went 4 shutout innings last night, but the bullpen's going to have to elevate as well.
Hey, we know you got to run, Ben, but game 1 of this series, we saw Vlad get hit in the bag. Adley Rutschman got hit yesterday, but it seemed clearly not on purpose by Ryan Yarbrough. Do you think it's over? Do you think we see anything in today's final game of the series?
I mean, look, I hope it's over. I know the Orioles got hit by the Jays back in Baltimore just 2 series ago. We had a broken nose. The guy took one, McCann took one off the face at 97. And, of course, our all-star third baseman got hit in the hand, and he may not come back this year in Jordan Westburg. So that's kind of where it started. And then, Guerrero gets hit the other day by Kimbrell. Rutschman gets hit last night. So, man, look, I hope it's over. I don't like it. I get it, because I played the game too. You got to protect your own in some ways. But honestly, I don't think anybody's throwing at anybody on purpose. I just think it's a ball. And look, we've seen a lot of guys at the big league level getting hit right now. I think guys are not controlling the ball in the inside part of the plate like they want to. There's a lot of talk about sticky stuff, and they can't control the ball like they used to be able to. So I think it's a combination of that, but I also think it's a combination of guys just not being very good, honestly, at throwing the ball in the inside part of the plate, And so that's kind of where we are right now. But a lot of guys hit Major League Baseball. Yeah, but to answer your question, yes, I hope it's over.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. We'll see. Ben, appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Ben McDonald, former Major League pitcher, Orioles analyst on MASN. Yeah, there's a lot of young players for a team that has World Series aspirations. Now, Jackson Holliday's hitting a bunch, so I guess it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. He's playing on this team if he continues to do this and into the postseason. And I know injuries have forced Kobe Mayo into the third base job, but yeah. I mean, he's going through what Jackson Holliday did in his first stint before he was sent down and then became this. It's a lot of young players for a team that's trying to win a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have enough superstars surrounding the young players that's what they're hoping, right? That the superstars can carry the load, and sort of the younger superstars that are up and coming, that are oozing talent, can just sort of fill in the blanks. I don't think it's the offense that's going to be the problem. Now, they're going to have to probably swing their way to a World Series, probably not going to pitch their way, other than that number one guy taking the bump every 5 days. But it's just everybody else. Like, when you watch them play, who's the 8th and 9th inning guy? Like, again, like I would think you having no-brainers in the 8th and 9th inning for a manager instead of having to worry about, like Ben was saying, pockets and matchups. And, boy, that's a lot to ask, right? I mean, you could show up, heart rates just went up, skyrocketed, and you get a dude overthrowing. And, like, and in Kimbrell, I mean, throw it against the wall, you're blindfolded on what you think you might get from him on a nightly basis. So that, for me, I think is sort of their kryptonite, is just what you get and when you're getting it and who you trusting. So if you're an Orioles fan and you got a 1-run lead, say, against the Phillies in the World Series, I mean, getting to the World Series is pretty cool, but I'm saying, like,
to win it,
if you're Brandon Hyde and you're an Orioles fan, like, who's getting the ball?
Yeah. I mean, Yanier Cano has his moments, but, there's no Felix Bautista anymore, right? Like, there's some guys with some pedigree there, but Craig Kimbrell, he's not the old Craig Kimbrell anymore. We've seen it. Sir Anthony Dominguez has some postseason experience as well. Gregory Soto's like hit and miss. No, there's.
they're more throwers than pitchers, right? You need those guys that can add and subtract and just outstuff people. And that's got to be quality location. Like velocity anymore is not shocking to a player. Like a hitter, offensive player have seen, it's close to 100 most of the days they're walking to the plate. It's that secondary tunneling, late breaking, unpredictability. If you can flip 1-0 to get ahead, now you're on the defense, and then you can sort of do what you want in different quadrants with the velocity. But then when you're just like all over the place and walking dudes, and I don't know. I mean, that's why the American League, I think, is sort of wide open. Like you could pick a team, I think, and be okay picking them. Like, you could pick the Mariners with the rotation.
In baseball in general, like look at what's happened in the NL West. We thought the Dodgers, and injuries have been a huge part of their season, but the Diamondbacks, there are only 3 back there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just, and the Phillies had a rough spell about a week ago. Like there's just nobody that's asserted themselves as this like dominant 110 win team this season. I think this is as wide open as I can remember a playoff field headed into the post. Like it's not September yet. Maybe somebody will emerge, and maybe Mookie Betts comes back and the Dodgers look like that.
That's going to help. That's going to help. They get healthy again. They get their superstars on the field. They're everyday guys playing a position. It sounds like Mookie's going to come back and they might put him at shortstop. It's just like you put him there, you leave him there, right? It's easier to move him from the infield to the outfield than the outfield to the infield. So I'm sure they'll take care of that when he gets back and when he's raring and ready to go. I just think that's good for baseball. Now there's not one behemoth. I mean, the Phillies, the way they look, the way they can hit homers, the big 3 they got in their rotation, that would probably be their, the one front runner just because of the way the Braves have looked. And do you really, the Brewers, are they threatening to you? Like I'm sure
Astros
some teams
have righted the ship a little bit too.
Yeah,
now
their rotation's not the greatest.
Yusei Kikuchi with like 20 strikeouts in his first 2 starts for the Astros.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder that khakis for the Jays not real good. Like it's like you stick the guy with the right khakis and he starts throwing less than one pitch, more another pitch. He's a hard thrower that throws left-handed. You just adjust maybe what the off-speed pitch looks like, when you throw it, how much you throw it, when you sort of eliminate, when you can keep at the bottom of the zone. Like, he's very aggressive. He's throwing strikes, and his secondary stuff's at the bottom of the zone. When's the last time we could say that with Yusei as a Blue Jay? It's been a while, right? So, good for him. He's a good dude. Hopefully he goes there and helps him win a World Series. But, it's just, again, it's like, man, look at that. Why didn't that look that way the last month?
Yeah, the Astros have a history of this. They took Garrett Cole, first overall pick, and they turned him into Garrett Cole.
Verlander, right? More elevated fastballs, more breaking style. Like you take a guy, you like what you see, you adjust just sort of how much he's throwing, which one he's throwing, and where he's throwing it. Mm-hmm. And that just sort of simplifies it for him enough to go, don't worry about throwing that because that thing ain't no good. We ain't even going to attack that. And then you just, you get to pounding the zone, you get ahead of guys, you get some swing and miss, and then you're a really good team again.
Yeah, you would think James Click would know the right khaki mix there, but hasn't exactly.
Well, again, this gets back to that. Who you pointing the finger at? Who you blaming? Like, you listen to the president, you listen to the GM. Like, there's a blame I think can go around to a bunch of different people. So this is a big off season for the front office for the Blue Jays. I really do this again. I think, and sounds like Mark thinks the same way, that this is a big off season. Yeah. Like, again, the baseball world doesn't think very highly of the organization when it comes to that front office for the Blue Jays. So, I think there's some maneuvering. There's some figuring some things out. I think the needs are obvious. Ain't guessing. You know what you got already. Now you just go out and try and, bring in some predictability. You do that, it's baseball. Like, you gain some momentum, you get some dudes happy. The shortstop comes back. He's raking. Back-legging some things. Get some help for Vladdy. They're hitting a bunch of homers. You got 2 dudes hitting 40 instead of one guy hitting 25. Like, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, it sounds simple when you put it that way.
Yeah, and don't put pressure on the Kirks, the Varshos, the back 9, George Springer. Like, it's just a lot to ask guys. Yeah. Now though. Like, again, this is not rocket science. A lot of the organizations try and turn it into that. It's not. You've seen a big enough sample size that now you know. So now it's just, let's see if they go out and sort of try and help do that.
Yep, into the final year of team control of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Mark Shapiro. So, yeah, a lot on the line this offseason. All right, manager has an extra year of contractual control. He's locked up through the 25 and 26 season, I believe. But John Schneider did his media availability before the final game of this series against the Baltimore Orioles. Here it is.
It seems like everything off of Hunter's bat lately is just well strung. What's like to tap into that?
Oh man, yeah, he's been great. I think just swinging at good pitches, controlling the zone. I always talk about that with Kirky, but he's having some intentful swings, and when he's putting the ball in play in the zone, it's usually pretty good. But good timing. Again, it's regular playing time, I think, too. When we trade Jano away, that probably helps. But again, this is kind of hitter that he can be.
Is it kind of, because he was talking about he was a bit over-aggressive prior. It's kind of a fine line between intense and aggressive.
Yeah, that's a fine line for everyone, especially him. I think probably chasing some numbers, chasing some hits early on, and that's where the over-aggressiveness or not controlling the zone as well as he does comes into play. So with anyone, we talk about being ready to hit something in the middle of the plate early, and if it's not there, just move on. I think he's doing a great job of that.
How do you think he's kind of balancing the additional workload without Jano? Like, we've kind of seen in the past, sometimes the numbers have fluctuated.
Right.
When his workload's increased.
He's been great. He's on top of everything that he's doing, whether it's weight room, training room, and, I think understanding that it's going to be a bigger workload going forward. He's got to be ready to put the work in. So far, so good. And it's an opportunity for him to kind of, show us that he can do this. And, it's been nice to kind of see him evolve a little bit with how he's taking care of himself.
Do you think he's a guy who could be like the strong side of a catching tandem?
Yeah, I do. Just because of his skill set, obviously, with the way he can make contact, he can impact the ball, with some damage, and he's so good behind the plate. So I think you kind of put those things together, and it's a real good combo of things to have. We're not going to ask him to steal many bases, obviously, but I think between the offense and the defense, a guy like that you want in there most nights.
The way he handled Chris the other night, I mean, you were complimentary of the basket.
Yeah.
For him to still be bringing that part of his game while working on everything else.
Right. Yeah, it's been cool. The last year or so, Kirky's kind of taken a step forward in terms of how he prepares for a lineup and a pitcher, and he's earned their trust. I think that, Jeno helped him with that when he was here, and they kind of played off each other really well. But he's taken a big step forward in that aspect, and when you got the pitcher's trust, it's easier for them to go out and make a pitch with conviction.
All right, there is Blue Jays manager John Schneider talking pretty exclusively about Alejandro Kirk and some intentful swings.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, we'll ask John about that tomorrow. I'm not real sure exactly what that means. I think that means he's laying off things he thinks he can't do damage on, which would allow him to put a better swing or more consistently his A swing on that pitch that he's trying to do damage on. I'll ask John about that tomorrow. I mean, that's an interesting way to say it. I think his bat looks quicker. I think that maybe have something to do with it, right? It gets back to that Vladdy thing. What's the biggest difference with Vladdy? He lays off the pitcher's pitch, gets his pitch, and because of that, we see more of his A swing. His A swing is top level, right? You see it more often. You get the better version of Vladdy. This, I think, maybe is what John is talking about with Kirky. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see, too. What are they looking for that will tell them that he's in trouble when it comes to the workload? That I think, too, is another. Is there something that they know, that they see, that will tell them?
Wouldn't it just be offensive performance?
No idea. That's what we're going to ask John tomorrow. So that's an interesting conversation because it's a big deal. It's a big topic.
Yeah.
It's something that they could check off the list that they wouldn't have to worry about.
Well, so it's interesting. Yeah, a lot of the veterans, I'm sure they're going to try and give them the proper amount of rest. And we talked about maybe a 6-man rotation. Alejandro Kirk's not a veteran, but he's been around for a while. He's 25, 26. Sounds like they're going to try and run him out there as much as they can to see if he can handle the workload. And it also sounds like John says the increased offensive production is coming as a result of more frequent playing time and of more frequent at bats because he's clearly been the secondary option when Danny Jansen was here. And it's flip-flopped because Brian Servin's obviously not a
Buck Showalter
catcher.
said that too, right? It's about posting. It's about going and getting used to it in your body, mentally, physically, just understanding that I don't have to go look at the scorecard to see if I'm playing today or not. I know I'm playing. Like your just body, mind, and soul gets used to to just sort of the flow of the season. And maybe that's what John's talking about. Again, they will be a better team because of the way Kirky handles the staff.
Yeah.
If he can show them he can produce a little bit offensively. I said a little bit.
Well, he was an all-star. Like, this was a guy that he was hitting in the middle of this order at his best, right? This is not ancient history either.
Yeah, I don't think we want him hitting in the middle of the order, but, lengthen out the lineup next year will be nice with the ads that they hopefully make in the offseason. So, I mean, good for him. Like, this, again, is just something that they want to try and do going forward. And, again, they like throwing to him. That's important.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a great receiver.
Yeah, he is. And he's a really good blocker. He's gotten better at his throwing.
Yeah.
Like his footwork, just how quickly he gets up to the slot to where the ball is being released has been much better. So if he can start to give you something offensively and the bat looks quicker and he's got better rotation with the hips, get some big hits when it matters with some dudes standing on base. You got to like that, right?
Yep. Some more home runs would help as well. He only has one since the middle of June. It was a big one in this series. But, yeah, this is a guy who has obviously proven himself to be, at times, a pretty elite offensive player, especially at that position. Hey, we're giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here on Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question of 590-590. Standard message and data rates may apply. Our last question and answer was, this reliever enjoyed a solid 3-season run as the Blue Jays closer, but his best season was with the A's, where he earned 44 saves in 84 games. The answer, of course, was Billy Koch, who had the great facial hair. He was kind of like a man ahead of his time with, like, what I don't know what you call that. Was that like the soul patch that he used to have?
That's not what we called it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
I can't say what we call it.
I think I know what you used to call it. Didn't he also bring like a bunch of school kids to, after he was released by the Blue Jays, to a spring training game to cheer against the Blue Jays?
An odd cat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't you kind of have to be as a closer?
Not that odd. I know things he did that you'd be like, you need to be checked into a home.
And none of them are suitable for
home.
Her? Yeah. Okay. Did you meet a normal closer? Like who's normal? Like,
Rivera's the most normal. Trevor Hoffman, I played with him. I mean, he was just freakish when it come to the way he worked out. I mean, he would run like 15 miles a day before the game. Like those things, I think, to actually hang out with him, shake his hand, be cool, could have a normal conversation like a normal human. Yeah, those guys are.
Jordan Romano off the field seems normal-ish. Like when he's in that dugout, yeah.
You got a light show. You got to show up.
Yep. All right. Today's question to win tickets to see Jays Reds at Rogers Center Monday, August 19th, perhaps with Joey Votto in the line. I haven't checked the box score yet. He was starting at first base for the Bisons today. And he got into a game yesterday, pinch hitter. This infielder enjoyed a 17-season career, made 4 All-Star appearances, 3 of them with the Blue Jays. In 1994, he played 1 season with the Reds before returning to the AL with the Yankees in 1995. Now, text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Standard message and data rates may apply. I've been watching a lot of the AAA box scores here, obviously, because we want to see what Jonathan Clase, Will Wagner have in store, and I'm really interested to see Jake Bloss's start on the weekend.
Absolutely.
But it is true that, like, the difference between AAA and the major leagues has never been more different than it is right now. Like, the average OPS in AAA was, like, in the 800s now, and part of that is the automatic ball strike system that they got in there, and part of that is the pitching depth.
I think the talent, too. They skip that level a lot of the times, too, right, with the hard thrower and the command. And, it's –
must be tough as like a team to evaluate what you got down there, because everybody looks like Barry Bonds in the International League.
You got to be good. I always thought this was easy. That dude hit a fastball. I can teach him how to hit a breaking ball. I can teach him how to lay off a strike-to-ball breaking ball.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to teach him how to hit a fastball. It really is. It's like just one of those things good hitters can do. I can roll out of bed and I'm hitting a heater.
Yeah.
Like the good ones always do that. It's that up and down where you face a dude who may have a weird arm angle who will flip it and just sort of throw you out of whack, and then you're playing catch-up for 6 or 7 days. But most of them dudes, you look at a great hitter, they all do the same thing. They destroy fastballs. So I think that's the easiest place to start. Go watch the dude. Can he get after the old good number one?
Just like
quadrants.
Pedro Serrano from Major League.
Can I hit the fastball in? Can I hit the fastball up? Can I lay off the fastball up? Can I take the fastball down and away the other way with backspin? Check. Call him up.
Yeah.
It's like, and my coaching staff, because we got the best in the world, can teach him all that other stuff. It's real simple. It's not rocket science. So hopefully they do that. Because they're going to need one or two of them guys to hit, because they can't go out and spend all kinds of money on everybody.
Couple of guys would be nice, though. You make it sound so simple. All right.
Well, it is a lot of the times.
Sometimes. Again, hasn't been for this team this season at all. All right.
I mean, not having Bo most of the year doesn't help.
No, well, it hasn't been simple for him. Like, baseball has looked pretty simple for him for the majority of his major league career, and maybe, the injuries were part of the lack of performance. But boy, for some reason, he didn't look like himself when he was healthy this season, and perhaps we'll see him before the end of the year. All right, when we come back, talk to Jensen Lewis, former Major League pitcher. He was a former teammate of Grady Sizemore as well. He's in the news. MLB Network radio host as well. Joins us next as Blair and Barker continues. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. We're on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. We're also on Sportsnet Plus, which you can access through your Sportsnet app, which you all have. You just go to the Watch tab right there on Live. Or you go to...
We're not on TV, right?
We're on a screen.
The normal stations, because I've gotten 7 DMs where you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I was I have no idea. I'm not in the same place I'm always at. No, you're not.
There's 45 different Sportsnet channels. There's, I don't know. They got tennis, Olympics. Anyways.
Important things going on.
Yeah.
And we're not one of them.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
The app is also important. Sportsnet Plus. And you can also go to sportsnet.ca.
Wasted a good shirt today. What I did.
Watch tab. Eye makeup. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Facts.
Let's talk to Jensen Lewis, former Major League pitcher, MLB Network radio host. How's it going, Jensen?
Good, guys. Great to be back with you.
Good to see you. I can see you. You look good on the app on Sportsnet Plus.
He does look good.
Your former teammates with Grady Sizemore, big promotion for him. Obviously, gets his first kick of the can as a major league manager, taking over in Chicago for the White Sox. Obviously, not the greatest circumstance, but I mean, when you were playing with him, did you see major league manager in his future?
No, which is crazy. And I think as we get older, guys, you start to find things that illuminate maybe interest that you didn't have during your playing days, but just the amount of respect from talking to people around the organization that the players had for him. And remember, he was just kind of a coach, wasn't really assigned as a bench coach, hitting coach, anything of that nature. So they thought enough of him with, I think, the camaraderie that he had garnered with the guys in there. And as you said, this is the worst time to have to try and get your feet wet as a manager on a day-to-day basis. But I think for him, he's such a steady personality. So that makes a lot of sense about why they would go to him. He's pretty straightforward. He doesn't say a lot, but when he does, he's pretty impactful with what he wants to say. So I think this will be an intriguing dynamic here for the better part of the next couple of months. And I'm hoping that if he does have the success that the organization is looking for, at least in the interim, that he gets as much consideration as anyone that they're going to put on their short list to interview outside the organization once the season is over. So really excited for him. I think it'll be a different dynamic than what people are used to. And I say that in a positive way, because I think he'll be very forthright in what he wants his message to be to the guys that are on that roster.
Jensen, I wonder how they grade him. Every manager, I would think, going through this and going forward when the future is at stake for an organization will be graded. How do you think the grading system will take place with him? And do you think Grady is mentally strong enough to withstand this, right? Because I'm not sure if the odds are against him, but I mean, I'm sure they're stacked pretty high with the interim and the month and a half left and just where the organization's at. How do you think he's going to handle this?
I think he'll be fine, honestly, in the interim. And I think for him, I know he's measured and reasonable in what's at stake here. And obviously, you can only go up record-wise where they
good.
are.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than just the wins and losses, and I think that's the easy chalk answer. But I think how the exit interviews end up going with players that they feel they're going to have there, and if indeed the Garrett Crochets and the Luis Roberts are going to be part of this moving forward, then they'll obviously, their opinion will go a long way if they are the cornerstones that they're going to build around in 2025 and beyond. I think ultimately it's about the day-to-day. It's a results business. So of course he's going to get graded on what the wins and losses look like in the next 2 months. But I think it's the eventual process of how you compute what the progress was from the time that he takes over starting tomorrow and moving through the end of the regular season. He can endear himself like hell, guys, in Chicago with them going up against the Cubs the next 2 days.
Yep.
He wins those 2 games. He's getting beloved already on the South Side, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be shocking.
Awesome. That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome. It
Yeah.
would also be shocking for a team that is close to on pace for more than 120 losses this season. Not quite as bad here in Toronto, but obviously hasn't gone very well for the Blue Jays here, Jensen. Lots of issues, but the bullpen has been particularly bad. 29th in baseball in ERA, behind that White Sox team, actually.
Wow.
The only team they're ahead of.
Really?
Yeah, just barely, by like 0.01 of an ERA point. Only ahead of the Rockies, who are also abysmal, is the Blue Jays bullpen. So we've always heard baseball people talk about how easy it is, or how variable relievers are, and if there's one area that you want to that you need to improve, it's probably the easiest to do so. I don't know. This bullpen needs an overhaul. How easy is it, do you think, to bring in 4 relievers this offseason, which the Blue Jays probably need to do?
I mean, health definitely decimated this group, and it wasn't just in the back end of the bullpen, but it certainly was in the rotation for a while. And we actually kind of talked about it this afternoon on LME Network Radio of the pieces from a pitching staff side feel like they're there. I mean, the rotation kind of speaks for itself, guys, with Gausman and Barrios and Bassett. And overall, they pitched to the back of their baseball card. I mean, they went out there and did kind of what you've seen them do for the last 3 to 4 years. So I don't think that's an issue. Trading Kikuchi out, I think, was a necessary move, and you got a hell of a haul coming back for that. The Alek Manoah resurgence or revenge tour never really got off the ground. So the UCL injury there hurts a lot for next year and perhaps what his career looks like from there. But as far as the bullpen goes, I mean, to not have Romano and Swanson, I think I talked to you guys about this last time I was on. It is so difficult when you're used to having your closer and your primary setup guy in those spots, time after time. I give a lot of credit to Chad Green, who has had to juggle many roles in his career, but to do what he's done, and particularly as of late, what a great piece to have moving forward. The pieces are kind of there. What I'm intrigued with, and I think and Mark Shapiro kind of alluded to it, was the disconnect between the expectation and obviously the result on the field. And knowing you guys are just an offseason removed from really being at the front door of the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, but just not able to get in, and knowing you were willing to commit that kind of money, it really is going to come down to, do you sign Vladdy long-term? If you don't, then that obviously changes the trajectory of where the face of the franchise is, let alone the direction of the franchise. But as far as the bullpen goes, I don't feel, outside of everyone being healthy and getting maybe some luck on your side from that point. I mean, there's so many injuries in a revolving door of roles. Take it from someone who's been there. I mean, that's the hardest thing to overcome from a bullpen unit, when you don't have guys in their customary spots and you're kind of coming in every day wondering, okay, am I going to pitch leverage innings? Am I going to pitch cleanup innings? That's a hard way to do business. But I think health overall, if they can get that with relative continuity next year, specifically in their bullpen, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, it's the extensions of the president. It's the 2 superstars and the shortstop and the first baseman that's sort of hanging over everybody's head. And, are they willing to go out and make moves because of those reasons? Let's move on a little bit. I got to ask about the Dodgers, because I don't think the Dodgers for a while been in this spot, right, where you got the Diamondbacks and the Padres both. You can feel them. You can feel them if you're a Dodgers fan, and in that organization, they're coming. And they really got nothing to lose, right? They lose all the time to the Dodgers. It just feels like this is the year for the Diamondbacks or the Padres to sort of overtake the Dodgers. How do you see that? And do you see the Dodgers sort of maybe using this for fuel or not and taking a step back a little bit?
Yeah, again, kind of the injury theme here too, right? Where without Mookie Betts for a very solid amount of the season, Yamamoto being on the IL, Walker Buehler a couple of times, sounds like he's going to be back for a critical series against the Brewers next week. I love this for two reasons. First and foremost, credit where it's due. This is the Padre team I think they envisioned in San Diego the last couple of seasons when you had Juan Soto there and you felt that the offense could be a juggernaut. I think they're doing it in ways that even has surprised themselves. And oh, by the way, Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be coming back here relatively quickly. So that's an even bigger boost to a group that is going to get reinforcements there. They're also going to get, hopefully, Joe Musgrove back pretty soon and Yu Darvish if he's able to do it. Now, putting them with Dylan Cease and Michael King and the reinforcements they got at the trade deadline with Tanner Scott and Jason Adam in the back of the bullpen. Fellas, this is scary.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got any skin in the game on the Padres for futures, you're feeling really good about yourself. Now hold the phone because here comes the Arizona Diamondbacks. And for me, this is where Arizona felt on paper that they could be at the beginning of the season. You talk about a team that has had to deal with rotation injury after rotation injury, and they're still here, 18-5 in their last 23, best team in baseball in that stretch. And a lot of that predicated on getting healthy in the rotation. But fellas, Ketel Marte and what he has done with Corbin Carroll atop that lineup, Josh Bell coming in, Jock Peterson, when they get Christian Walker back from the oblique injury, who knows where this division race could be at, but I love that it's just within 3 games for 3 teams. It's going to be a fight to the finish.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. It's exciting. Pennant races
Finally,
all over
we
baseball.
get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Aroldis Chapman, they lost, the Padres beat the Pirates today, as they did yesterday, but Aroldis Chapman threw 105 yesterday. It's striking out the side in his. Are we going to see like 110? He's obviously the freak of freaks, right? Like he threw 105 a decade plus ago. Where is the limit of human capabilities here, Jensen? Like, how hard can a human throw a baseball?
Guys, I remember being in AAA when he was coming up with the Louisville Bats for Cincinnati. And, in traditional minor league lore, you have a player go out and be a first base coach from time to time. And I felt for my life when I saw him warming up because any right-handed hitter who was just late enough, I felt like an elite athlete there to get out of the way. But even then, I think I had second thoughts about it. To see what he's done at this point in his career, though, and you mentioned the velocity, I thought about Ben Joyce and Mason Miller, obviously with the Angels and the A's respectively being 103, 104 themselves. But to see, quote unquote, the old man doing it and still doing it at the rate that he was, I was just impressed that he's physically capable after all the miles on his arms, all the leverage innings that he's pitched. I think he's got a second wind with it, fellas. I think he's loving the challenge day in and day out. Maybe the critics saying, all right, at some point it's got to come down. He's defying imagination at this point.
You talk about second wind, and Yusei Kikuchi was here in July, was awful. He wasn't very good. Now he's went to the Astros to 2 starts, and he's been really, really good. Who do we give the credit to for that?
Change of scenery. You
Yeah.
get up and you're like, oh, hey, we're right in a pennant race. Let's go. I'm excited to come to the ballpark every day. And you're right to kind of point out a little Jekyll and Hyde here for him because, man, there's times where he just looks utterly dominant.
Yep.
And then there's times where, don't make any reservations for dinner after the game because it's just a bunch of full counts and, a lot of high inning pitch counts start in and start out. So I still marvel at what Ross and Mark were able to get back in that haul. And I think it's going to benefit the Blue Jays already, not only in the short term, but certainly some of the long-term effects from that trade will be felt for years to come. I'll chalk it up to change of scenery, guys. I know in my rookie year in 2007 with the Indians, and we were right at the top fighting Detroit for the division lead. We made basically 1 or 2 moves at the deadline, but we brought back Kenny Lofton, who's a folk hero, a legend, in Northeast Ohio for all the 90s teams he was on. And I can tell you all of us were like, holy crap, man, like we're going to do it. It's go time. And so sometimes, one of those change of scenery things, like he was with Texas, they weren't going anywhere, and ultimately comes over and gets back with us. And, with the career resume notwithstanding, I mean, he was that final jolt for us to get across the finish line.
Yep.
Yeah, Astros fans not nearly as upset at the haul they gave up to acquire him at the deadline, despite him being a pending free agent. So Kevin got mad at me yesterday when I brought up that maybe the American League MVP race is like kind of close.
Nope.
I mean, Aaron Judge is having a stupid season, right? Like by some measures, even better than his 62 homer season in 2022. But Bobby Witt Jr., what he's doing, and at that position, and I would add in that ballpark, is ridiculous. I still think Aaron Judge is your MVP today. But like, do you think is it close? Is the gap narrowing between those two?
It's narrowing, but I still think we're kind of at that Grand Canyon-sized chasm in between it. And you mentioned the comparison of Judge's, 60-plus home run season. We thought then that was the most absurd statistical offensive single season by a hitter in modern history, if not all of baseball history. And what he's putting together yet again is really, again, like Aroldis Chapman defying imagination. This is a whole nother solar system that we're seeing what Aaron Judge has done. But Bobby Witt Jr. is right there, and it's the stretch of which Bobby Witt Jr. has done what he's done the last 30, 35-plus days. Guys, I mean, you go 3 weeks and you hit 500. I mean, that's absurd. I don't care who you're up against. To do that with the relative ease that he's showing, I think is fascinating to watch. The other part of this is going to be what happens down the stretch. I think it narrows further if the Yankees somehow stub their toe and fall back a little bit. And if somehow Kansas City hits another gear and Bobby Witt Jr. is in the middle of that, and they somehow overtake Minnesota and Kansas City and Cleveland, now you have the narrative part of this, the recency bias. Trust me, as a Cleveland fan and someone who covers the team, I want to see the Guardians, have a comfortable lead and be able to clinch the division. But I don't think that's happening, guys. And just by the head-to-heads, you're going to see the Bobby Witt Jr.'s, the Royce Lewis's, the Jose Ramirez's. This is what you want in baseball. You want to see a tight race. You want to see stars being stars. And if Bobby Witt Jr. continues this pace and Kansas City ascends the standings, you're going to have a real tough time as a writer not taking a second look and saying, okay, what is the real definition of most valuable player? You take Aaron Judge off the Yankees, there's still Juan Soto there who's having a hell of a year himself. You take Bobby Witt Jr. off the Kansas City Royals, and no way that they're doing what they're doing in 2024.
Well, that's fair.
No, it's a ridiculous season.
Take some guts to vote for him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Royals are very pleased they signed him to that extension.
No question.
No question about that. Jensen, this was great. Thanks for doing this.
Awesome stuff. Thank you.
We'll talk soon, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Sounds good. Jensen Lewis, MLB Network radio host, former Major League pitcher. Man, there are some pennant races, right? Orioles, Yankees now tied atop the American League East. Guardians just a 3.5-game lead on the Twins. Royals 4 back the lead there. Half-game lead for the Astros over the Mariners. And you mentioned good Yusei Kikuchi start. He's had 2
How about that?
Really good starts. One against the Rays, who obviously a decimated team after the deadline. And even before the deadline, I mean, how do the Rays keep hanging in around 500? I have no idea. But they've lost a couple in a row. They're still above 500. But it's quite a different thing to do that against the Rangers. Rangers 5.5 games back. And in the NL, I mean, the NL East pretty much sewn up the way that the Braves have fallen off in injuries and whatever. The Mets are just happy to be in a race. Central, same deal. But the West, man.
Crazy.
That Dodgers team with all the money they spent.
Yeah, I think it's about time. I think Jensen was right about the Padres and all the money they've spent and all the superstars they brought in. This is the time, right? Like, this is what they were expecting to happen a couple of years ago, and it's finally here. Like, this is, everything's all headed in the right direction. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is kind of cool to watch. And I want to see the Dodgers get beat. It's not any fun to watch the Dodgers always win.
They got their World Series, okay?
I didn't. Does it count?
I mean,
COVID year, does it really count?
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, the World Series was 7 games, and there were people in the stands. But, wasn't it at a neutral ballpark? You know what? There are a couple of years that I've tried to scrub from my memory bank.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you the last 37 games for Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah,
he's hit 432.
It's stupid.
He's got 26 extra base hits. He's got 31 RBIs. He's got 39 runs. His on-base percentage is .469. He's slugging .767.
Yeah, you think he sucks?
No, that's not what I said. But I said he's, second place is cool.
Yeah.
Ask Vladdy. Vladdy knows what second place is like.
Yeah.
It's, like the dude that does that in center who's a unicorn, at his size, he's a unicorn. Like no human that size is supposed to hit a baseball like he does as easy and as effortless as he does, right? To all fields, right? Yep. He'll pull a ball in at velocity. He'll take a breaking ball away and hit it to the moon.
And there is Juan Soto, but there's also Austin Wells. Like unless they flip the order of those two, you got Juan Soto, so he's on base ahead of you, but really not a lot behind you. They added Jazz Chisholm, but lineup protection.
It's two dudes, right? So look, and he's going to hit 50 plus. He's going to hit 50 plus
he's
homers.
The leader. I think he's.
He'll
leading.
have 100, and he'll be pushing 130 RBIs. I mean, it's a ridiculous number. Not getting taken away from what Bobby Witt Jr. and the future looks bright with Kansas City, right? They're now can compete because they got that dude. Now he can build around it. Now he can try and find you a bullpen. Mm-hmm. But he ain't the Yankees. He ain't the dude that plays center. So even that guy plays center and he's 9 feet tall.
He could hit 62 homers again.
He'd have to fall off a cliff and not play again for me not to vote for him.
Even still, his numbers at this point in the season. Speaking of numbers, I mentioned 105 for Aroldis Chapman yesterday. And another outing, scoreless outing today. He's your former teammate, right?
Yeah, he was. I told you about the cars he's got. That how many times he's thrown 100. He's got a car for each 100. So 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105. And I think he threw 107. I think he had a couple of more of those.
Have you faced? Well, obviously as a lefty.
No, I've never. He was on my team, and then I never came around to face him in the big leagues or anything like that. But I've been on teams that have where he's been throwing, and dudes say they got no chance. Mm-hmm. He's throwing that hard consistently. He don't throw that hard anymore, right? It's rare that he'll reach that.
Yeah,
he's normally pitching at that 99, 101.
But
99, 101. It's not 105.
No, 100. Yeah, you think about, it's like 100 Ryu's throwing 90, and the difference between him and 95, that's the difference between 100 and 105.
It takes those special at-bats, like the Manny Machado, where, it's like, oh, yeah.
Well, even him, he was in that strikeout. That wasn't 105. That was only 104.7, I think, that pitch that struck him out.
You round up. It's not rocket science, but okay.
Oh, it's stupid. Anyways.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's very fast.
Yeah.
He's bounced around.
His age, how hard he throws.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. I'm sure somebody will want him.
Kevin Gausman, on occasion, throws hard. He gets the start for the Blue Jays tonight. Again, the rubber match of this 3-game series against the Orioles before the Blue Jays go through a stretch of games against non-playoff teams, starting with the A's over the weekend.
Yep.
Dean Kramer starting for the Orioles. Gausman has been up and down this season, no question. This isn't the top of the rotation guy that we've seen previously throughout his Blue Jays career, had the complete game. But, he's
split finger's been on the edges. The velocity on the fastball's been consistent. It's back to normal. He's got those. He can sprinkle the slider and the other two-seamer thing that he wants to throw. You can eliminate that 7 games against the Orioles with the ERA a little over 5. Let's see what they do against the new split he's got.
Yeah, we'll see. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., of course, back in the lineup trying to
8 more homers to 30. Don't be afraid.
He's trying to extend the hitting
streak. Running out of games.
To 20 games. Work his way to halfway of Joe DiMaggio's hit streak. He'd be at 20 with another one tonight against the Orioles. We'll have Blue Jays talk after the game on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. This has been Blair and Barker. Ben Ennis filling in for Jeff Blair. Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet Plus.